Welcome. Welcome. It's wonderful to see so many people here today. This has been a great week for us in Central New York with the leadership of our Regional Economic Development Council, which we affectionately in Central New York region call the Red Sea. We were the winners of the Governor's Upstate Revitalization Initiative, and we're one of the first winners of the $500 million prize. I'd like to acknowledge some of the people that have joined us here today. We have Congressman John Katko, who's here. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us. We have Senators DeFrancisco, Valesky, and, this says Senator Al Sturpey. You've been promoted. Assembly Member Al Sturpey. We also have Assembly members Bill Magnarelli, Will Barkley, and Pam Hunter here with us. Welcome. We have the chairman, I don't know where he is, of the Onondaga County Legislature, my partner, Ryan McMahon, who's here. Ryan, thanks for coming. And we have the chairman of the Oswego County Legislature, Kevin Gardner. And we have the president of the Syracuse Common Council, Van Robinson. Welcome, Van Robinson. We have from the governor's staff, the Department of Transportation Commissioner, affectionately known around here as Mayor Matt Driscoll. We have the Commissioner of the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, Commissioner Sam Roberts. And we have our two fearless Red Sea leaders, Rob Simpson and Chancellor Kent Severud, who have led this process for us. There is no way that we could have been in the position that we are to win this prize if we didn't have a 5-year-long terrific partnership with Governor Andrew Cuomo. That's right. That's right. Whether it is the recent announcement of SORA in the business community, all of the investments that are being made on the west shore of Onondaga Lake, and the terrific investment that's coming to the New York State Fairgrounds, people are really noticing what's happening here in Central New York. And we put together a terrific plan that builds on the strengths that we have in this community. We have anchored our plan with this rich farmland and agriculture industry that we have in Central New York. We have a second to none workforce, and there's a big part of this that invests in our already very talented workforce that we have. And we have made strategic partnerships with some of the premier higher ed institutions in the country, which we are fortunate to have right here in Central New York. I was confident that we were going to win. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Governor Cuomo for putting his faith in us here in Central New York. And I want to thank Rob Simpson, Kent Severud, and all of the individuals. There were many, many people who spent a lot of hours putting this plan together. There were hundreds of hours of public meetings. We asked the community to participate, and everybody stood up and let their voices be heard. It was a tremendous amount of work, and I want to thank all of you for doing that. And I have the honor now of introducing a member of the legislature, the state legislature, who has been so helpful to us. And I know the governor will say that without the partnership of the state legislature and the funds to make this happen, we couldn't be here today. So please join me in welcoming Assemblyman Bill Magnarelli.
Well, I know I'm going to have to pull that out for John, you see, so. And I tell you, thank you, Joni.
I'm speaking after you.
I know. That's all right. The governor's got my back. And I want to say something. The county executive mentioned that we were confident, and the reasons for being confident going into this the other day. But when we saw, I was sitting next to the county executive during the thing, and when we saw the Finger Lakes win, and then we saw the Southern Tier win, and that's 2, there's only 3, all of a sudden the county executive looked at me and she said, uh-oh. So anyway, but we did, and it's really amazing to think about what we can be when we all come together for the overall needs of Central New York. We're accomplishing things that just a few years ago no one would have thought possible. If you want to spur growth, we must look to this issue regionally, not by who represents who. That's what's so great about these regional councils. That's what's so great about them. This strategy has brought us together to form one vision, one plan for success, and judging by Thursday's results, I think we have done a pretty good job so far. But while we celebrate today, let's not forget that this funding represents the opportunity of a lifetime, and we cannot squander it. We must work just as hard, if not harder, to ensure that all these projects get the time and attention that they need. We have a plan of action. Now it is about execution. And I have every confidence in the world that we will be successful because we have the best workforce and the strongest communities in all of New York State. Thank you again, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Senator DeFrancisco.
I wasn't going to use it, but then I couldn't see anybody. A lot of people have been acknowledged today, but I would like to give a round of applause for everybody else here, if you haven't been named. Because in many instances, it's the plans and the vision of many of you in this audience who have assisted in getting projects out so that we could put together a successful package. You know, we here in Central New York are used to be winners. We want to be winners. We're always winners. We're the home of the orange. So that's exactly why we had to win this thing. And if anybody knows me, I'm somewhat motivated. I'm somewhat competitive. And we could not possibly have lost this thing with the team that was put together for this competition that we had. And there's no question about it. And I think we ought to really congratulate Jim Fail, who was the administrator from the Office of Economic Development. He and his staff did all the grunt work. And as Bill Magnarelli said, you know, we really now got to get it done. It's not a question of winning something and having money to deal with, but get it done and get it done right by listening to the community as to how these projects are going to be rolled out and to make sure they're successful. Successful so that they stay here for the next generation, not leave after a few weeks. So with that said, I am to introduce the Chancellor, Kent Severud, who's been sort of busy around here. How long have you been here?
2 years.
2 years. He's aged 40 years in those 2 years. And he was a terrific co-chairman, and Rob Simpson as well. They put everything together, and they're the ones who should really be congratulated. Kent Severud, Chancellor, and Rob Simpson.
Thanks everybody for being here. I want to thank Rob Simpson especially and all the members of the Regional Economic Development Council for their leadership, their hard work. And of course, Joni Mahoney and Assemblyman Magnarelli and Senator DeFrancisco, all our elected leaders for pulling together on our region's URI proposal. And of course, all our region's leaders and people from the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit sector, the community, who did so much to win this competition for our region. And I want to thank someone who's not here, which is Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul from Buffalo, but a proud Syracuse graduate, for her tireless leadership in economic development. But most of all, I want to thank our governor for the vision and commitment to upstate New York that made this happy day possible. I did return home here 2 years ago after many years away. I had returned here to find Central New York full of great people and great potential, but beaten down a bit and lacking sufficient confidence in the future. 2 years ago, I thought it would really take a miracle to pull this region together, and I was wrong. It did not take a miracle. It took a governor with an idea. He had a big idea, a competition for $500 million in investment, and made it a competition that we could win only if we pulled together and we focused on jobs and we focused on raising all parts of the community. So I thank Governor Cuomo for that idea and commitment to Upstate, for pulling us together, for investing in us. We are painfully aware that the real work begins now in implementing the plan. We are going to do that starting today. I know that we'll do that with great leadership, especially because we have a great leader in our co-chair, Rob Simpson.
John dared me to use the step, but I didn't think it'd be appropriate. I'm the only person standing between you and the guy with the money, so I'll be very brief. There's 3 things I want to say. One, which is thank you. We talked earlier, and John rightfully turned the sort of lens to all of you. 120 members of work groups that toiled for 6 months on building strategy, vetting projects, and putting this plan together. Without your leadership, we would not be here. And I have never been more proud watching our community come together as we did over the course of these last few months. Republicans and Democrats, business and labor, neighborhood, suburb, city, everyone working together for a common good. And I am so thankful for all of your leadership in that work. The second thing that I think is really critical, we have now articulated a vision for what this region can and should look like. And I was accused just earlier today of getting a little emotional in an event on Thursday night when I came home from Albany. And you know what I did? I am so excited for the vision that we've laid out. Investments in high-tech development that could put Central New York on the map for the leadership in unmanned systems. Recognizing the rural parts of our community with investments in agriculture. Tackling hard problems like poverty and government modernization in ways that require honest conversations with ourselves. Those are really powerful things, and my son now gets to grow up in a community that 5 years from now is going to be better than the one he was born into, and that is something that not only I, but every single person in this room and in this region should be beyond excited about. Third, when this process began, there was some hand-wringing about competition and pitting region against region, how it was framed. And I just want to put that to rest. We had a phenomenal opportunity to not compete with other regions, but to wrestle with the hard issues that we have in this community. The competition brought out the best in us. The competition forced us to think hard about what investments would make sense and which ones wouldn't. And I can tell you, in all sincerity, the governor came to town at one point this summer, and he said, you know what, Central New York, you're not working hard enough. You're not making the hard decisions you need to make. We could have done 2 things at that point. We could have kept doing the status quo, or we could have buckled down and worked harder, nights, weekends, to make sure that our proposal was as bold and ambitious a vision. This is not a timid plan. It is a bold vision, and it would not have happened if it weren't for the leadership and the enthusiasm and the encouragement and the prodding of the governor of the state of New York. He is the first governor who has made the upstate economy a campaign platform. He is our governor. We are incredibly proud. We are incredibly grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, a standing ovation. I should stop right now. First, let's have a big round of applause for a great work product done by Rob Simpson and Chancellor Severud. Thank you so much for the leadership. The leaders of your delegation, Senator John DeFrancisco and Bill Magnarelli, we thank you. The county executive, who is always reaching out and always coming up with a new idea and always advocating for her county, but a baloney line she gave when she said, "Oh, we were confident all along." That is so not true. We were at the event, and nobody knew who won and who lost. And we're just going geographically from west across the state. And I'm sitting on the stage, and I'm just looking at people, and I'm sort of enjoying myself. You know, my job, you don't get a lot of enjoyment. So you have to find these little peculiar ways to enjoy yourself. So I'm just watching the faces of the people. And I'm watching the county executive next to Bill Magnarelli. She was biting her fingernails that I'm surprised she has any fingers left, the county executive. So I was glad to know that now she was confident. But she did a great job, and let's give her a round of applause. And all the local elected officials, the members of my cabinet, your old Mayor Matt Driscoll, who's doing a great job as a commissioner, and Sam Roberts, I thank them all, and Van Robinson, who is really the eminence grise of the city. His leadership, his stamina is something that inspires us all. Van Robinson. Let me say this, because everything has been said, just not everyone has said it. What worked here was the simplicity and the honesty of this approach. You put that together with the boldness of this approach, and that's what brought us to today. And it's the first time the state has ever done anything like this. And a few of the factors were precedents. Number one, as you heard, it's the first time the state of New York government in Albany stood up and said, you know what, we haven't done the right thing by upstate New York. The truth is we let decades go by. Upstate New York was challenged economically. It had structural problems. The economy had moved away from upstate New York, and too much attention went to downstate New York and not enough to upstate New York. And in many ways, this is an equalizing of what the state did wrong over the past 20 years, and we wanted to make it right, and we wanted to put our money where our mouth is, and that's what this $1.5 billion investment is. Second, we said we're going to spend $1.5 billion, which is a lot of money, but it is an investment. It is not a grant. This is not a normal government program where we're going to give out grants and write checks and give it to people. Investment meaning this is going to bring jobs back, identifiable, definable jobs, create those jobs. Those jobs will then earn wages and pay taxes to the county and to the state. It is an investment. This is not a gift. I think this money's going to come back to the state with dividends when we get those jobs created. And that's what it was about, jobs. Well, can we use it to paint the tower? No, it's about jobs. Real jobs, real business, not dreams, not build it and they will come. A specific business that is identified that will come, basically an investment banker for the central New York region. That's what this is about, and it was singularly focused on jobs. And everyone kept saying, but can we use it for this, and can we use it for that, and I need a new fire truck, and I need an ice skating rink. No, it is about jobs. And it's not about propping up governments that were failing and slowing the decline. It's about turning around the decline and getting those governments in those regions self-sustaining. That's what the vision is here, and the discipline. And it was a competition. Yes, they didn't want a competition. Nobody wanted a competition. They wanted a check. Just give me the money. You know, it's a lot easier just to get a check than to have to compete. Because if you compete, they would say, well, what if we lose? So then you lose. That's what it's called. You win or you lose. And if we lose, what do we get? No, you get nothing. Nada, scata, niente, big goose egg. That's what you get. So they wanted the check. I had spent 8 years in Washington with the Clinton-Gore administration, and they had gone through this whole review of how the federal government gives out money. And we did everything by competition. That was one of the big transitions that we made. And nobody liked it, but it forced the governments and the politicians to actually perform. Because when you just get a check and you didn't really have to produce, there's no accountability, you don't really get the same results. So yes, the competition made it hard, and it added doubt, but we got a much better work product. And by the way, look at what we were asking people to do. Very, very hard. Focus on jobs. You have to bring everybody together in one tent. Everybody. The academics have to work with the politicians. You know, the academics say, ooh, I have to work with the politicians. And the politicians say, ooh, I have to work with the academics. And then we said businessmen have to be at the table and they have to be part of it. And the businessmen said, you mean I have to work with the politicians and the academics? We made them all come together in a region, and it was very hard. Democrats had to work with Republicans. Senator DeFrancisco had to work with me. Now, he does not do that unless he's going to lose. That's the only thing that's going to get him to do that. And I said to him, John, you don't have to talk to me, but then you don't have to win either, do you, John? And then he worked with me. You see how the competition actually worked at the end of the day? And it was about jobs, and you did a great job. And I'll tell you, you rose to the occasion because your application was up against very tough competition. This was the 5th year we did this. So the other regions had all been working and had all been perfecting. And you really had to come up with a good plan and dig deep. And it is an inspired plan. The indoor agriculture part is inspired. The Veterans Complex is exciting. It recognizes a responsibility to a group of people, frankly, who've been disrespected by this nation, especially given their service. And I think that was a special part. The research and development on the unmanned aircraft, I didn't understand it, but it sounded really cool. You know, and then you dealt with what is this state's toughest issue, which is the cost of local governments. 10,500 local governments, property taxes from each and every one, and that is the greatest tax cost in the state of New York. The number of people in upstate New York has gone down. The number of government employees has gone up. Those two things can't happen. It means the existing people are paying more and more taxes, and that's causing the existing people to leave more and more. We have to turn that around. We have to have the political strength, which is very, very hard, for local governments to look at one another and say, how can we do this better? How can we come up up with shared services? How can we save money and how can we cooperate, you know? Every government is like all of us, human behavior. Everybody wants to have one of their own, right? The shared services, the cooperation isn't easy. And you took that issue head on, and I think you can be a model for the entire state of New York in what you do in government reform, and that's very exciting, and you should be congratulated for that. And then Central New York doesn't exist in a vacuum. And the pieces in upstate New York are coming together. You're one of 3 regions that just won this big award, $500 million, right? Finger Lakes won it, Southern Tier won it. So you have those 3 regions now that are all going to be percolating. And there'll be a synergy among those regions. When the Finger Lakes is doing well, that's going to help you. When the Southern Tier is doing well, that's going to help you. And we already have Buffalo doing unbelievably well, and the Capital District with nanotechnology, which is an international economic revolution. You put that on top of the progress that we've made in Albany with the legislature, where we have the taxes down in the state of New York. Every person in this room pays a lower tax rate than they did 5 years ago. We have middle-class taxes down, corporate taxes down, estate taxes down. We have the spending for the state of New York at the lowest level of increase since they have been keeping numbers, believe it or not. 2%. That has never happened in the state. So the state has got its act together, the regions are working, and you can feel it all coming together. Even the numbers show it. 740,000 jobs created in the last 4 years. Unemployment went from 8% to 4%. And what's nice about it is it's all across upstate New York. So the tide has turned in this state. The tide is going with you. You're not going to be fighting the tide. The tide is going with you. It's going to make your job easier. $500 million is a lot of money. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, Buffalo got $1 billion. Buffalo got $1 billion. Buffalo got $1 billion over 10 years, okay? You're getting 500 over 5 years, all right? So that's basically the same level of funding. You see all that has happened in Buffalo, where it's actually a different attitude and a different city. It is unbelievable. I used to go to Albany as to Buffalo as Attorney General, and when I was campaigning, and I would be talking to people about turning around Buffalo, not a muscle in their face would move. Nothing. They had heard it all before. The economy was bad. It wasn't going to change. And we worked and we worked and we worked, and they started to see change, and their face started to change a little bit. I remember my father said to me once, God rest his soul, he said, I was talking to someone in Buffalo, and he said, I hear the numbers are better in Buffalo. I said, yeah, the numbers are better, but the faces are the same. And until you get the faces to change, you don't really get the numbers to change. Until people really buy in, then you don't really get the turnaround. What have they spent thus far for all their progress? $500 million. That's what $500 million can do. And by the way, Buffalo had much worse problems than Central New York. In size, population, poverty, loss of jobs, they had much more trouble. So you've seen what they can do. I have to assume you do at least that with your $500 million, right? Because you're starting at a higher point. But it is up to you. It is up to you. And we've been talking about this all through this process. Today is a new day. And there is an opportunity that you have not had in history. This really is historic, what you've done. The opportunity from the state is historic. Your victory is historic. The funding is historic. The plan you put together is historic. This is a moment in time that has not come before. But it's a moment in time where it is up to you to seize it. You know, life is simple. We determine our own destiny. Yes, we can help with $500 million. Yes, we can help with encouragement. But it's up to you. You have to take that investment. You have to work together. You have to work hard. And you have to refuse to lose. And you have to say to the negatives and the naysayers who say, well, you know, nothing's going to work, and government is this, and this is this, and everything is bad. Baloney, everything is bad. Baloney, everything is bad. Maybe the past has been bleak. I get it. I know what you went through. I know the pain. I know the broken promises. I know the heartburn. But that was yesterday. That's not today, and it doesn't have to be tomorrow. That's not what you were made of. That's not what made this state. It's not the attitude that made this state. It's not the people we are from. We are a state made of people who came from all across the globe with nothing, because they believed in themselves and they said, you give me a chance, you give me an opportunity, and I'll make this state and I'll make this place a better place for my family. They were doers, they were believers, they would not take no for an answer. They built the Erie Canal out of nothing. They built the greatest state in the United States, the greatest state on the planet. So don't tell me we can't do it. It's their blood in your veins. Our hands are out. We're going to make Central New York better than ever before. Thank you, and God bless you. John just asked me for the check. He's a very bottom line kind of guy, John. I don't have the check, but I do have this very attractive cup that I'm going to present. Congratulations. Come on the side a little bit over here and keep together. Come on, let's keep in here, guys.
You want? Here, why don't I go in back so John can go in front? How about that? It's only fair.
Come on, John. Come in here. Come on, get closer. Get closer.
Watch that hand.
Come on, Democrats are not contagious. Get closer. Where's Joni?